Welcome back to the Brandon T. Adams Audio Experience. I'm Brandon T. Adams. I'm sitting here with Ben Gulak of Nala. Welcome to the show. How you doing, buddy?
Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to jump into this. We're going to go back in the beginning, then we're going to talk about Nala and everything you can do with art. But when I first saw a clip of you, it was actually me watching Dragon's Den. And this was now, I think, 18 years ago, you said?
Yeah.
That you were on Dragon's Den. And one of the biggest investments you got from the Dragons in history. Let's talk about first, how did you get on? Because this is the early days. I mean, before Shark Tank and everything else. How did you get on the show? What was your product? Tell me about the experience.
It's a really funny story. I was a huge science fair geek in high school. I did science fair, robotic contests, programming contests, like everything kind of in that realm. And my final grade 12 science fair project was this like weird kind of electric unicycle street bike. Imagine like a Segway merged with a Kawasaki.
Yeah.
I wanted to make, I was like, when all the...
It looked pretty cool, by the way.
It looked cool. Didn't really work all that well.
Yeah.
It was really dangerous and like totally not going to take over the transportation world. But Popular Science magazine like saw it at the science fair, and it started off, they're going to run like a small mini story on it, like in the back of the magazine. And then like 8 months later, it became the cover and invention of the year, which was not planned at all. And then sort of everything went crazy. So all these like news stations and like publications were reaching out. And then Dragon's Den was filming, which was the precursor to Shark Tank in the US before Kevin and Robert moved down to the States. So the producers for Dragon's Den were calling my high school trying to get me to go on the show. And like I didn't want to go on it because like everyone looks like idiots. Like they get torn apart.
Yeah.
It's like not a chance. I was saying no. They were calling my parents. And then in the summer, this was the summertime, they were filming, and this girl I had a crush on was interning there that summer. And she hears my name at Dragon's Den in Toronto. So she hears my name come up and is like, Ben, just like come down and meet them. Like they're talking about you. It's the second last day of filming. So I drive downtown and I meet them, and I thought, you know what, like fuck it. I have nothing to lose at this point. This was never meant to be a business. I'm at Kinko's that night printing out like banners and trying to like, how am I going to talk about this as a business? Again, it is an electric unicycle. And then I go on the show, and it ends up being like the craziest 8 minutes of TV time ever. All 5 dragons come in and want to invest. And it like just totally set my life on a different career path.
It's funny because when I watched it, you could see the confidence, like what you wanted, the amount of money, and then they're all going at it.
It was just...
And now that I know that it was just a project that you did.
No, it was purely... I didn't know what I was getting into. And then this whole like dynamic back and forth of like, well, they make an offer and I actually give a counter offer, which like never happened on the show back then.
Yeah.
I just didn't know what I was doing. So it was like pure, like what you don't know can't hurt you. And it ended up working out really well.
So what most people, now years have been passed, what happened after? Did you end up getting some deals? Because I know there's a lot of negotiation after the show.
So I ended up, like of the 5 dragons, one ended up actually putting in money.
Yeah.
But the media exposure, sort of that entire summer, I had people reaching out wanting to invest in this company. And of course I knew like, it is a unicycle. Yeah. I ended up taking the media exposure and starting a company with a friend of mine, building an off-road vehicle, kind of for like the action sport, nitro circus industry. And I spent the next 10 years of my life building this company. We took a concept, prototyped it, filed a bunch of patents for a really cool transmission system, set up a factory over in Guangzhou. And at the 10-year mark, we'd shipped 4,500 units internationally, set up a global dealership network. And then I, got involved in art. So I went through, a very sort of difficult patch.
Yeah.
And then I went.
You went through the true entrepreneurship roller coaster.
Yes, I went through everything from like boom to bust, bankrupt by like 26, and then sort of started my life over again.
Yeah. So talk about the start over and how you got into Nala and everything you're doing with art.
So prior, when I mentioned, I was doing all these science fair competitions and things in high school, art had also actually always been a big part of my life. I grew up at 4 years old. I started going to art camp. I took art every year through elementary school, high school. I even did a fine arts program in Italy for 1 semester in high school. So art was a very big part of my life, but then as my engineering projects were sort of taking off, going to art college didn't really make sense. So when I went through this restructuring, I started painting again. And I thought like this is, that had always been sort of my calming when I was stressed, where I would go to calm down and de-stress. And then I thought, well, if I'm doing all these paintings and they're just collecting dust in the basement, that's going to be even more depressing. I have to sell these things. Yeah. And I looked at the art world as like setting up a distribution network. I'd already set up sort of dealerships for our off-road vehicle all over the world. I just started doing the same thing, sending out emails to galleries, calling gallery owners. And I got really lucky. One of the first galleries I called was this one in London called Graphic Gallery. They carried like Warhol, Banksy, Alec Monopoly, like big names in that industry. And the owner, like, he picked up the phone. I sent him some WhatsApp pictures. He's like, send me some paintings. And The very first gallery, before I'd even sold a piece, had me listed at between 5 to 10,000 pounds of painting. And then I immediately took photos of in the gallery and went to other galleries, and I had 12 galleries representing my work within like a few months, where that same year I was at Scope Miami for Art Basel during Miami Art Week. So I really like hacked the art world, and I did this for 3 years. Some really big names ended up collecting, like Chris Brown has some paintings, Scott Storch has some of my paintings in his living room. Like
It was your paintings, by the way.
these were my paintings, and it was like totally really, really neat to see that, I had these ideas and like suddenly they were like hanging in people's homes. And at the 3-year mark, I realized like I don't really want to be a professional painter for forever. It is time to go back to school. And I went back to MIT, switching from what had been a mechanical engineering degree before to computer science and data econometrics. And I didn't have time to sort of paint anymore. I was like 28 at this time, competing against all these like 18-year-old hotshot programming kids. And I started, in order to make money, take artists from emerging markets. So I had found this amazing artist in Havana that was selling his work for like $50 on the street to tourists. I wanted to bring something cheap home, and putting it in the same gallery I had in London. And suddenly his paintings were 5,000 pounds. And I did that with an Egyptian artist, a guy in Brazil.
I got to ask you this question.
Okay.
So when you were selling your art, what was the most you ever sold your art for?
30,000.
30,000.
Yeah.
Do you know who bought it? Was it somebody known or just a random person?
It was a guy in London. It was at a charity event.
Yeah.
And I did a painting of the Tin Man and C-3PO, and I think it went into his like kid's bedroom.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So Nala, go into Nala. You have this platform now. Tell me how this came about. You were brokering deals.
So at this point, I was taking artists from emerging markets that didn't have access to the global marketplace, putting them into galleries where it was the same artist, same talent, same painting. The only difference was the perceived value of the buyer going into the gallery. They expected to see fine art as opposed to like cheap tourist art. And what's interesting about the art world is there's sort of 3 major platforms that dominate the space. They cater exclusively to galleries, and only 2% of artists work with galleries. What's also interesting is that these platforms take a 30% cut just for hosting the images on their site. Then the gallery that uploaded the work onto the platform takes 50% of what's left. So the artist on a sale only gets 35% of the retail price. A buyer at the same time that goes on the site is only seeing a tiny sliver of like sort of the potential artistic talent pool. So I thought, okay, what if we connect the global marketplace, all these artists that are unable to access the global marketplace, and connect them directly to buyers, cutting out all the middlemen. And that was sort of where the genesis for Nala came in.
Wow. That's crazy. So where's it at today? Tell me what's happening with Nala.
So we have over 12,000 artists registered on the platform. I think the stat is something like over like $100 million of sort of artistic value of art that's been uploaded by artists. Of course, that's not in our inventory. These are just like the artwork is still in the artist collections. We have some really cool new initiatives. We just released a brand new version of the app that has like 2 totally different ways to discover art. One is a voice search. So again, on sort of the existing platforms that are out there, it's very hard to find art. If you want something for your living room, and you could pick the most benign topic, like children playing on the beach.
Yeah.
All the other platforms do is do string matching to the search terms, to the artist's name or the artwork title. So if you're looking for beach paintings, you may actually find artwork by an artist with the name beach. You won't actually find what you're looking for. So we integrated a voice search where you can describe whatever you're looking for, and it will, using computer vision tech, actually we analyze every single image to understand the styles, the themes, the context of the artwork to show people very efficiently what they're looking for. And then we have this other cool feature called Echo, which is basically Google reverse image search, but for fine art. So if you take a photo of something you find visually, exciting, like a bouquet of flowers, we'll find you artwork of that topic. But what's really neat is I want to partner with museums, because everyone that goes to museums loves art, but they can't afford the masterpieces on the wall. If you take a photo of a Monet Impressionist painting, we'll show you contemporary living artist work that is or inspired by that same style and genre. So now we can open up, local markets where if you're working with, a museum, patrons can take photos of the work they like and find artwork from local artists.
So for an art enthusiast that loves buying art, it's perfect. So they can find different things just through their phone.
Exactly, but it's the personalization that comes with it. So every time you like or engage with the work of art on the platform, even if you're just looking at an image for a little longer, we interpret that and very, very quickly curate more and more accurate feeds for you. So just like how Instagram, YouTube,
Yeah,
everything
for
kind
art.
of knows, we're doing it for art though.
So you have 12,000 users now,
We have 12,000 artists on the platform
artists.
already.
So what's your vision? See this 2-3 years from now, where do you want to be with this?
So my long-term goal is I want Nala to be the conduit for how art is consumed digitally. We're started because we're 100% pro artists. We don't take any commissions from the artist's sale price. They keep 100% of their retail value. There's a play where we can actually work with departments of arts and culture. Every government in the world has a department of arts and culture. It's how we preserve and share our stories globally. We export, if you're in Australia, they want Australian artists to export their work around the world. We have a very efficient method for artists to access the global marketplace. So recently, like the Emirates is subsidizing every citizen with like free OpenAI premium accounts.
Yeah.
Nala is an opportunity for governments to subsidize their artists by giving them access to the marketplace by paying for Nala accounts. And what's interesting there is it's a totally new way of, instead of just giving grant money or subsidies to the artists, this is an empowering mechanism to actually get the artists more sales. And we have agreements in place with a few countries already where smaller, like the Caribbean, for example, that's heavily reliant on tourism, we can now give those artists more independence by not being so reliant on tourism. And we saw what happened during COVID when tourism sort of dried up. And then on a larger scale, we're in negotiations with the Ontario Arts Council for a large block of 2,000 artist accounts the first year. We're doing something similar in the UK, Saudi Arabia, and the Emirates. So there's a strategy where we will sort of move through country by country, absorbing all of the artistic talent pool. And then
You're raising capital too now, right?
and I'm in the middle of a capital raise that's going to be closing, I think, in the next couple days.
And so the capital is going to basically build out the platform more and acquire more people to the platform?
No, I mean, marketing is obviously a very big part of what we're doing.
Yeah.
But at our core, we're a computer science, like data science company.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of like tech that goes into what we're doing. So more computer vision experts, data scientists, because the more efficiently we can understand people's preferences to show them the type of artwork that they really want quickly, it leads to more sales and helps the artist.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited. I've bought some art. My friends have some very wealthy art collections. I've seen the $500,000 pieces of art that I never understood it, but then I understood there's a true value to art. And I love what you're doing at the platform with it.
It's interesting about the art because one of the advantages to Nala is when you go artist direct, you save so much money.
Yeah.
Because let's say you go into a gallery in New York and you want something for your living room, right? And the way the industry works, you have all these like little bubbles where a guy walks into a gallery, I need something for my living room, and they say, oh, you should invest in this artist. He's going to do a solo show in London in a few months, and then Mykonos at the end of summer, and then he's doing Art Basel later at the year. His price is going to go up, sort of at each of these shows, and he's a good investment. So you buy it, and, over the next year, his price continues to go up. What they don't tell you is that they represent the artist exclusively. The galleries hosting his solo shows are their galleries, because a lot of these companies are multinationals. And if you ever try and actually resell that work of art on the secondary market, you'll get a fraction of what you paid. I know multiple people who've done everything right, bought every piece through the gallery, and then they go through a divorce and have their collection reappraised, and it's dropped by 60%.
Yeah.
So unless you're buying like masterpieces or true blue chip artwork, there is no crystal ball. Galleries don't know who the next Warhol is going to be. You should just buy with your heart. Buy directly with the artist, build a relationship with the artist. And if you have something that you enjoy, that you genuinely picked out on your wall, you'll always be happy, whether it goes up or down in price.
Yeah.
But really, the idea of buying art as an investment when you're sort of at the lower end of the marketplace, you should just buy what you really like.
I actually bought a art from my friend, and he takes photos of it, and then they blow it up and they put it on the wall. But when you share that, it made me think of that because people that buy from him typically buy dozens of pieces. They have one, and then they go to him because he's constantly creating new art. And there was one we shot in Puerto Rico. I was with him, and you could buy the whole set for like $200,000, or like you said, there's various versions. You have one and up to, I think, 18 or whatever it is. But it's interesting to see how you look at the value one person could have on it. Somebody could walk in that gallery. One person may say that's worth $50,000. The other could say that's worth $20. But it's the eye of the beholder, but also the presentation that is presented for it.
Well, and that's exactly what I saw specifically with the artists in Cuba, because they're heavily sort of restricted. It's very hard for them to export their artwork. So the idea that you can go to, it's probably one of the densest artistic populations on the planet, I think. And people go there and they buy paintings for absolutely nothing, and they expect to pay nothing for it. And then when you see the same artwork hanging in a gallery, or this year we're doing a show in Miami where I'm having some of the artists work, and the perceived value, just seeing it on a wall, seeing it in a gallery or alongside other expensive art, changes the perception completely. But it's the
100%.
same painting. It's exactly
It's
the same.
proximity and where you're at, the atmosphere that you're at, that determines the price and what
Yeah.
people are going to pay for it.
This one artist I work with, I saw his graffiti when I was in Cairo like 10 years ago. He was just a street artist, and I really liked him. I bought a bunch of pieces from him, some canvases. And then I got a project for him at the Royal British Museum. They were redoing their King Tut exhibit. So this artist who'd like never left Egypt is now in London painting these 3 massive murals around like all the King Tut artifacts. And now he did another museum project in Paris, and then in the last Art Basel, I brought him to Miami to do a mural at the Museum of Graffiti. All of these, he's still the same talented artist, but he's in all these institutions now just because he had the right kind of exposure. And that has a life-changing impact on like
much
the
money he
prices,
makes.
how much money he
Yeah.
makes, how his family is doing. And that's, I think, one of the beautiful things about Nala is we can't guarantee that every artist will get a sale.
Yeah.
But we're leveling the playing field, at least where if you're talented, Nala is a meritocracy. If someone likes your work, they will see it. And if someone is looking for your style of art, they will see it. And you have an opportunity to compete in the arena, whereas before, like literally 98% of artists can't access that global marketplace.
So for anybody, whether an artist or somebody looking to buy art, where do they go for Nala?
Nala.art, Nala.art is the website, and you can download or on the Apple Store, the Google Play Store.
I like it. Well, hey, thank
you.
you for being on the show. Thank you for all you do for the artists. I'm going to be checking out the platform, maybe buying some art. Check him out. And until next time, you all, we'll see you later.
Thank you so much.